Welcome to the News9 Plus Show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Hamas is crumbling. Its leaders have gone silent. The Israeli army has surrounded its fighters in the ruins of Gaza city. The Israeli Air Force is relentlessly bombing its hideouts. Hamas now faces surrender or death. But it still holds a trump card. 240 hostages it kidnapped during the October 7th terrorist attack on Israel. Many of these hostages are believed to be inside the extensive network of Hamas tunnels called the Gaza Metro. The world has never witnessed a subterranean hostage situation of the kind we're seeing now. And News9 Plus spoke to experts on the challenges the Israeli forces face as they race against time to rescue hostages. I spoke with TV9 Bharatvarsh's Sumit Chaudhary, who returned from a reporting assignment in Israel.
The biggest challenge right now is for them is also go inside the tunnels. Challenge for them is the tunnels, because they have to go inside, they have to search each and every location, and the tunnels is around, as per the Hamas claim, they have around 500 kilometers. As per Hamas claim, it's half of the New York City tunnel subways. So I think that is something very challenging for them. And most important, most challenging is these are the places where the hostages may be kept inside these tunnels.
There's about 200 hostages that are still unaccounted
200, yes,
for,
exactly.
and they could be kept in these tunnels.
So they don't know about these locations. They can't target them blindly. And the pictures we have been showing to our viewers, this is exactly the reference that how small these tunnels are, how exactly compact and how well equipped these Hamas people have been in these tunnels.
I spoke with Colonel Ravi Singh, a combat engineer, to understand why tunnels give Hamas an advantage.
Firstly, let's understand that when you talk about tunnel, our mind goes to the metro tunnels, and these are very superior designs.
Right.
These are very, very small designs, which are rudimentary design, I'll say, done by some basic engineers.
Right.
Which basically consists of two columns on the side and
Right.
an arch concrete on top. So all this is it. And piece by piece, they will just keep adding it and going forward.
Right.
So it doesn't have a big space,
Right.
but a small space good enough for human traffic to pass through and weapon and ammunition to go through.
So it's like a concrete tunnel made of arches, concrete arches
Yes, so
stacked
not
together.
not always. If you don't get arches, you use just two straight beams and make a inverted V.
Right.
And use it in that format. And the photographs which you see is one of the best ones.
Right.
I have seen some photographs which are not very straight and were just assembled in a way to hold on for that person and ammunition to go through.
But tell us about, the thing. Tunnel warfare is as old as warfare itself. What has been the role of tunnels in the last century?
So if I'll just take a touch on the Mughal times also, if you see the forts and all that, they had small escapes and getaways.
Right.
They're basically small tunnels.
Yep.
Only thing is here, Hamas is kilometers.
Right.
Its size is immense because the spread is also there.
Right.
They want to spread their resources in terms of manpower and ammunition, which can be divided in various places, which they would know.
Right. So we're hearing, Sumit, that there were three types of tunnels. There are admin tunnels, there are storage tunnels, and then there are the personal tunnels and escape tunnels as well. I mean, is there a gradation of such tunnels?
Yes, they have a differentiation, and I think they have made it very strategically.
Right.
From last 10 years, they have divided all these tunnels in a different locations, not only for human trafficking, as sir has mentioned, but also for the arms and ammunition, and from north area to travel to the south area, because these Hamas cadres and the terrorists, they can't travel on the road, so they try and use all these tunnels from north area to south. So these tunnels have been giving them a lifeline or a secure location from where they can move and they strategize their attacks on Israel.
Right. So the philosophy of tunnels.
Here I would like to add one thing very interesting. See, unlike, as I said, these designs are very rudimentary designs.
Right.
So the difficult part of making a tunnel is firstly going down and then going later left or right.
Yeah.
So they can't do that because they don't have the technology with them, not accessible to them.
Tunnel boring machines.
Yes. So what they would do is a standard hospital or a school which is already dug down, and then just go lateral. And then just go connected, and then in between, after a few kilometers, might be have a getaway, small getaways. So most of the tunnels will be lateral, going and connecting with each other.
Connecting the basements of buildings.
Yes, that will be the best. That is the easiest to do.
Right.
Because from the basement, you dig sideways and just keep going inside, and small holes like what we call it in our terminology, rat holes. You just make these rat holes and travel from one place to another.
Right.
So that is the way. The difficult part in this tunnel warfare, if you are terming it like that, is that it is very difficult to access it.
Right.
Because when an enemy moves out, he just doesn't leave it like that. He booby traps it.
Right.
And once it is booby trapped, it is just as good as impossible to clear it.
Right.
So normally it is either the tunnel is destroyed or it is blown apart.
Right.
That is the only way we can get, because to remove a booby trap is very difficult.
Right. But like Sumit was saying that a lot of these tunnels are used for soldiers to stay in, and we've been hearing reports that 15,000 Hamas fighters live in these tunnels. What are the challenges of making a tunnel habitable for human beings?
These tunnels, like we in the Indian Army also, we use bunkers for staying.
Yeah, of course.
So in these tunnels are just stopgap arrangement.
Right.
They cannot be for permanent living like a house with a toilet and lighting and air conditioning and all that.
Right.
It is a basic safe getaways.
So it's like a bunker.
It's like a bunker.
It's a long bunker underground.
It's a long bunker and spread
across.
So their resources also spread. If one place is damaged or destroyed, they have other places where they can use those for warfare.
Right. And why is it that Hamas basically came up with this idea of tunnels? Sumit, what's the philosophy?
I think here, no, I like to add here, it is, I think, see, how the Israelis they have given this place to Hamas, and they said you can't do anything because everything is under governance, moving out, inside, out, everything is controlled.
Right.
So that's how they can't get the technology. Technology is available in the world, but they can't get it inside. So what is the best way of getaway? Go down, dig and just stay there. And they must be doing it for years. And if Israelis have not come to know, that means a top secret operation going on.
Of course.
And they have done it very secretly and made a big chain of tunnels.
Right. In fact, Sumit, I was reading this report which said that the quantity of mud that they've extracted from these tunnels is, you could build a pyramid of Giza with that. 1,50,000 truckloads of that. How did all this happen in plain sight? Obviously, this has been, you know, that mud has to be deposited somewhere. So how did the Israelis miss out on all this?
I think we all know that it's a big failure from the Israeli intelligence agencies. They have accepted this. They have also accepted that it's a biggest failure from our side. But one thing is very important. Hamas is not only the only one who is doing this. They have a proper backup. They have a proper training. Their commanders, when you talk about the higher commands of the Hamas, they have been well trained not only in Gaza but also in Iran, in North Korea. I think I have also seen, because when I reach all these locations, I have seen the new technology of hand grenades, the rocket launchers, which is North Korean made.
There's a North Korean connection.
North Korean made and the Iranian made. So I think they have been well trained by either from the Iranian side or from the North Korean side.
But it's interesting, Sumit, you should mention the North Korean connection, because you know, in the thing of warfare and tunnels, the North Koreans have dug multiple what they call tunnels of aggression across the demilitarized zone.
When this tunneling system would have started, I'm just assuming, unlike a metro tunnel which starts from one side and or might be starts from the other side and these connect, here they would have made small tunnels in this area, another set of tunnels in this area, another set of tunnels in this area, and ultimately they would have inched slowly and got it connected. And that's how we got a network today.
Which
today
is why it's called the Gaza Gaza Metro.
Yes, so this is slowly connected. So only a few people, some people know about this work, there's some network going on. If it this is how you maintain security. If it is exposed, only this will get exposed. Other people so they just kept making it, and ultimately they connected it, and that's why you're getting 100 kilometers of network without the Israelis coming to know about it.
So the challenges of this seem to be electricity, getting that electric supply. Here you're looking at a very well illuminated Hamas tunnel coming from one of their propaganda videos. Sumit, we've been hearing reports that the IDF is targeting the electricity supply to these tunnels, their
fuel,
you know, that hitting their air conditioning systems and, you know, air filtration thing. Do you know anything about that?
If you remember the 10 days back when the Pentagon have also mentioned this point, and America also mentioned this point, the negotiation between the Hamas and the Americans is on the point of fuel transferring to the Hamas.
Right.
They have mentioned this, we are going to transfer some amount of fuel to the Hamas and they will release our hostages, but they denied at the last because Israel intervened and they said it's in mid of our operation. Our main target is to destroy their arms and ammunition, their fuel, their electricity and major supply so that they are paralyzed. And that's why if you see that the biggest challenge right now with the Hamas is to gather all these things, and they don't have any their ratio or the lines from where these kinds of things can come to them.
Right. So illuminating the tunnel and electricity supply would be a big challenge.
No, electricity is not a very big challenge because that is one of the the simplest way of just putting a cable. What the Israelis trying to do is to choke them out. So no water, no electricity. But they would have catered for that because as I said, these are small spaces. So water would be stored in jerry cans and whatever small containers, it could be stored there. And electricity, like generator sets are there, which will help them in electricity. So that is not a big challenge. The challenge is to get the network, the map of the network, how it is. That is the big challenge for the Israelis.
And that is something that Hamas would keep to themselves. It would be a very closely guarded secret.
And very few people would know about on the topper level because some tunnels, some people would know. Some tunnels, other people would know. But all the tunnels, nobody would know.
Oh, absolutely. Need to know basis as they say in the military. But Sumit, what are the other big challenges? And the IDF is pretty well versed with the tunnel warfare. I mean, I've been seeing those videos of, for the last couple of years, of IDF personnel rehearsing on entering tunnels. But based on what we are seeing right now, there doesn't seem to be a concerted effort to enter the tunnels. I mean, it seems to be all from the surface, to fight them on the surface and block the buildings that are sheltering tunnels.
Sandeep, I think they have a multiple challenge. Not only the tunnel challenge is one of the prominent one. The second most important challenge which they have is the time duration which Hamas now get it, because they have plenty of time now. They have put plenty of ambushes. The third challenge will be the hostages, because they know that they kept hostages, they have transferred hostages from north to south area. And the last and the most important challenge is the support which Hamas is getting from the Houthis, from the Hezbollah. So there are multiple fronts from where the surface to surface long missiles have been targeting the Israeli forces. So they just wanted to ensure one thing: once they start entering the Gaza city, once they start capturing all these locations, the attacks from the Houthis and the Hezbollah doesn't affect their ongoing operations in the Gaza Strip, and that is the biggest challenge they are facing right now.
Another thing I think they have as a problem is since their hostages are with them. So because if you have a 5 kilometer long tunnel, just one tunnel, very easy, just block the entrance and the exit, just break it down. So whatever inside is left inside. But if they have their own people inside, they don't know.
Hostages
inside. So that is the challenge why they don't want to just block all the tunnels. They are not blocking the tunnels primarily because of this. There might be some negotiation later on where they can get back the hostages. That is why they are delaying on the blocking these. Otherwise, very easy to block the entrances and just let be where it is.
So right now they seem to be, as we were talking earlier, Sumit, is that they are encircling Gaza city from all sides, and then they are trying to kind of starve them out. And this is a long operation.
Yes, this is a long operation, and they will do it in a very slow pace. They are not going to take it in a very very fast way. So they are taking a long time so that they can not only choke them from the fuel and electricity, but also they have a full intelligence input, the surveillance input, so that they can target the pinpoint location and come back.
I also spoke with Major General Vijay Kumar Datta, a decorated Special Forces soldier trained in Israel, on what the IDF will do next.
If you know the guy is hold up, don't do a frontal charge. Use your brains. Go from the top, go from the rear, go from the side, blow him up, cut off his exit, then enter him, smoke him out, fine, blow him up, bomb him out. Why should you lose your troops when there are no hostages involved? So Israelis today are facing a hostage rescue of 250 odd hostages.
It's the largest
and clearing Hamas at the same time.
That's
so it's a tall order.
And plus, to add to that, you have the tunnels that you mentioned underground. Hostages in tunnels
almost
underground.
Almost 140 main tunnels have been already blown. Now the tunnels, I'll just try to explain to you. Their tunnels are in 3 phases or 3 sections. One is called the Hamas Metro. It is a much wider. They even have rails running through it for a faster movement of goods, equipment and all that. That's called the Gaza Metro.
The Gaza Metro.
Above the Gaza Metro, they have communication tunnels, which are narrower, in which the troops can move around, go from one place to another. And then they have the tactical exit and the tactical tunnels from where they come out, carry out a strike, get back in and go to another target.
So these are tunnels with vertical shafts.
So there are three floors of the tunnels. The Gaza metro, the communication tunnels and the tactical tunnels. So they are using different kind of explosives, different kind of techniques to tackle all these three tunnels. And the Israeli engineer brigades, they are carrying out this demolition activity in a very systematic manner.
So combat sappers are really important. That's the big takeaway.
Very important.
Fighting
Even
in built-up
the energy,
areas.
we have sappers who accompany all our hit teams for blowing off any door, window or making entry from a blind angle. That is done.
My colleague Aditya Raj Kaul is one of the few Indian journalists to have been inside Hamas's tunnel networks some months ago. Listen to what he has to say.
Gaza over the last 2 weeks has become the flashpoint of a deadly war between Israel and Hamas terror group after terror attacks in southern Israel on 7th of October. Over 3,000 people have been killed in Gaza in Israeli airstrikes, while over 1,300 have been killed in Israel due to the terror attacks. Hamas in Gaza over the years has built a massive network of underground tunnels, often used to carry out attacks in Israel and smuggle goods from Egypt. Yet, mostly it is used to let Hamas carry out its operations through underground command centers, which are also equipped to store and transport men and ammunition. Here, right behind me, you can get a glimpse of the map of these underground tunnels all across. In fact, in November 2022, I was a part of a delegation where the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli government had invited me to visit all the border areas. In fact, this was one of the areas near Sderot, around the southern Israel, where I had visited and in fact gone inside a tunnel that Hamas had really constructed along with concrete, electricity to in fact store ammunition and also send in terrorists into Israel for terror attacks. In 2021, Hamas had claimed to have built a tunnel network of over 500 kilometers, which is more than the size of the Delhi metro network. This massive network of tunnels used by the Hamas terrorists is known as the Gaza metro. These tunnels are mostly built manually using basic tools, and yet there is electricity within these tunnels and the structure is solidified using concrete, as I said before. Tunnels have been an integral part of the warfare in the past as well. In the mountains of Afghanistan, both the Al-Qaeda and the Taliban have often used shelter within the tunnels. During the Vietnam War as well, the Viet Cong tunnels were used by the Vietnamese in the jungles of Southeast Asia. It was impossible for the US Army to enter these tunnels due to the sheer size of it. Hamas once again has been using these tunnels since the war with Israel has begun. You can see this is the tunnel which is being used continuously by the Hamas terrorists. It's a very narrow passageway which is very dark, but there is electricity at some ends. And on the other hand, you can see these rockets as well that have been kept to attack the Israeli Defense Forces. And IDF has also accused the Hamas of hiding inside these tunnels and often using civilians in Gaza as human shields. These tunnels are often difficult to navigate because of its maze-like structure and booby traps by the Hamas all along the passageway. Israel, however, is all set to now launch a massive ground assault inside Gaza to crush Hamas. Almost 4 lakh troops and reservists on ground have been mobilized for the same. The Israeli Defense Forces would also be using bunker busters or laser-guided bombs, also known as GBU-28, to demolish the underground tunnels or any targets hidden far below the surface. The bunker buster is a 19-feet-long explosive developed by the United States, which goes underneath the ground before exploding. It would, however, be a challenging ground assault because Hamas is currently holding nearly 200 Israeli and foreign hostages who could have been kept in these tunnels as well.
My colleague Nivriti Mohan put together this interesting story on Hamas's tunnel networks. Let's watch.
What Hamas has done since they took control almost 20 years ago of the Gaza Strip is basically to build a network of tunnels from Gaza City and under Gaza City.
These tunnels are the biggest challenge that the IDF faces in its offensive against Hamas. In 2021, the IDF claimed they had destroyed at least 100 kilometers of Hamas's tunnel network. Hamas responded by saying that just 5% of its 500-kilometer long network was destroyed by Israel. Now, if this is true, this vast underground network, the likes of which probably don't exist in the world anywhere, will be tough for the IDF to navigate.
We are at the bank inside a tunnel that was detected a few years back, and this was a tunnel that was used by a terrorist organization, Islamist jihadis as well as Hamas, to in fact attack not only the soldiers but also civilians who stay very close to this international border. This is a 2.5 kilometer long tunnel, 900 meters well within the Israeli territory. Colonel John Conricus, who is the former international spokesperson of the IDF. What's exactly happening here?
What's happening is that we have Israeli communities just hundreds of meters by us, and we're standing in a tunnel that was supposed to allow Hamas terrorists to get to those communities and kill Israeli civilians. We have a border about 900 meters away, which is monitored and patrolled by Israeli soldiers, and the purpose of that border is to keep the terrorists in Gaza and to keep Israeli civilians safe. What makes it very difficult is that the terrorists don't look like soldiers. They all try very hard to look like civilians. They hide from the using civilians as their human shields, and they use infrastructure like the one we have behind us in order to get to our civilians, to the Israeli civilians, and to attack them.
In 2018, the IDF said that Hamas had invested over $150 million in its tunnel building activities. According to them, these tunnels were built under civilian infrastructure in Gaza within close proximity of Israeli towns, intentionally endangering both Israeli and Gazan civilians. The IDF held Hamas responsible for these cross-border assault tunnels, which violated Israeli sovereignty and threatened the lives of its civilians and soldiers.
The Gaza Strip is one of the densest populated areas in the world, about 20 miles from one end to the other, and about 9 miles in the widest location and less than 6 in the most narrow. Not to be accessed by the civilians. These aren't bunkers for the Gazan civilians to have access to when Israel is striking. No, it's only for Hamas and other terrorists so that they can continue to fire rockets at Israel, to plan operations, to launch terrorists into Israel. That's the only thing that this network is for.
Tunnels, rocket launch sites, and even weapon storage facilities are shielded by homes and schools. This makes it harder for the IDF to locate and engage them.
Whether they are 300 or 500 is not important, but they are extensively underground. There are exits also in places which is not easy to hit, for example in hospitals, children's schools, such areas which are, empathetically you can't hit them. You can't even smoke people out easily. So you're trying to smoke it out, there are hostages there. So you will be hitting hostages. There may be human shields in form of public.
Israel has been targeting these terror tunnels on various occasions. On October 10, 2017, the IDF destroyed a cross-border assault tunnel that extended into Israel from the Gaza Strip. The tunnel was discovered less than 2 miles from the Israeli village. 1 month later, on December 9th, the defense forces destroyed another tunnel that extended hundreds of meters into the Israeli territory. On January 13, 2018, the IDF destroyed another tunnel, crossing 180 meters into the Israeli territory and known to be a smuggling route for weapons and fighters in order to carry out terror attacks. The October 7 attack by Hamas was a combination of simultaneous attacks by air, land and water. Despite Israel's heavily secured border with Gaza, the IDF was not warned of any breach in its security. Perhaps a cross-border tunnel was used by Hamas to enter Israel undetected initially.
What we're doing is prioritizing striking commanders, senior officials in Hamas from all echelons. Whenever we have intelligence that indicates the whereabouts of a senior Hamas official or military commander, we strike in that location. And the places where we know that Hamas has infrastructure, whether it is financial or construction or command and control, collection of intelligence, research and development, whatever it is, if it belongs to Hamas, we are striking it.
So last time when the Israelis did a ground offensive some years ago, it wasn't a total success story. It's because the built-up area is so thick and the passageways are so narrow that it's not simple to do an offensive. So what the Israeli ground forces may want to do to recapture the entire Gaza will be causing immense amount of casualties. This kind of operation is not going to be a simple one, except for creating some kind of a buffer next to the fence, a small little buffer, so push the population a little away, and then you protect yourself and your kibbutz across, which are next to the closer to the fence. But beyond that, getting into tunnels without information, detailed information, and without knowing where the hostages are kept, and their hostages may be kept into many pockets, it's not the easiest of conventional military operations. No, I think they will be in trouble doing it.
For the Benjamin Netanyahu government, destroying these tunnels and crushing Hamas will be a military victory, or perhaps a way of extracting retribution for every Israeli citizen killed since Hamas's invasion. But for those held captive, for those caught in the crossfire, war comes at a cost. At the cost of their loved ones, their homes, and their own lives. After a brief respite, New Delhi is choking again. Air quality is now in the severe category once more. We have this story on how air pollution is impacting life in India's national capital. Let's watch.
Life begins at first breath. We take a breath every 5 to 6 seconds. A normal adult breathes 12 to 20 times per minute. That's approximately 23,000 breaths in a day. What if every breath you take kills you?
I'm Qazi Riaz. I'm originally from Nagina, which is in western part of Uttar Pradesh. I've been in Delhi for about 14 years.
Wear your mask. Let's go out, okay?
Okay, good girl. Let's go. Come. Let's go.
Like the immediate impact on their health is very visible on the very first day when the haze was there. Both the kids were infected and they had allergies. They can have ailments all throughout their life from this short exposure. That scares me even more because like right now they'll just get cured and we'll feel okay about it, but then these particles they get absorbed into your lungs, and some of them have carcinogenic properties as well. So that's really concerning. I mean, I feel really scared. Like it's not just that as a parent I want the best for my kids, but this is something beyond my control and it really worries me.
There's better livelihood here, there are better schools here for your children, but if health is the price that you're going to pay for a longer time, it's a bad trade-off.
The situation is quite alarming. Often we have said that this is almost like a health emergency because this causes both short-term and long-term effects as far as not only the lung is concerned but other parts of the body also.
Delhi, the reason why it is the way it is because it's landlocked, no influences of a coast. So there's no question of things being washed away, barring, for instance, a western disturbance which brings with it some, good weather, rains, etc. So the rains are the only possibility for Delhi, and right now there's no prospect of that. Of course, the Himalayas are there, and there is this cold front that kind of tends to descend from, the neighboring mountains, right? And that's exactly the reason why when that cold front descends, it literally traps. It's like a lid on top of the atmospheric layer that Delhi has, which just prevents everything from moving out of it. And when the winds become slow, right, it's literally not able to escape. So whatever is being emitted is here, and yeah, it's got the, look at it, Delhi's got as much road network as the entire state of Gujarat, right? Imagine that. That's the number of road network we've got. The number of vehicles that we have. Growing up, I used to read that all the metros put together have lesser number of vehicles than Delhi. So we've basically, private mobility is huge. And you've got, and you effectively the earlier regulations that, took away industry from Delhi, situated them right outside the boundary, right, in the districts of NCR, which means that the pollution they're putting out is effectively, coming back.
This is a same story every year. There is a improvement in air quality since 2015, but now again the air quality is in severe category, and that happens every winter. Last year there was a La Nina phenomena, and because of that wind was faster, so air quality is improved. So we thought that air quality has improved in a longer term. But again we came back to 2021 situation where these 45 days from 20th October to 30th November are always a dangerous proposition for air quality in Delhi.
If you look at the fire count, which a lot of people are focusing on, the fires in Punjab, it's a lower level as compared to last year at the same time, cumulative as well as what would have happened in the same period last year, and yet the air quality is slightly worse than last year, and pretty much every other activity is probably at the same level or not. So which means that Met is that unknown entity, right? So the winds have gone calmer, right? And that boundary layer where the pollution mixes also come down, which means that it's not clearing as fast.
So if you look at the pollutants that we see, we are looking at what we call various noxious gases, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen, oxides of nitrogen, ground level ozone, and we're also looking at particulate matter. So these, when we inhale these pollutants, they cause irritation in the lung, they cause inflammation in the lining of the lung, the bronchioles and the bronchi, and also cause some degree of constriction in these airways, leading to breathing difficulty, chest tightness, and worsening of your respiratory problem because it can lead to fall in oxygen saturation. But it can also lead to higher chance of heart failure, heart diseases, and more data suggests that it can even lead to a neurological problem like stroke. And there is also data which suggests that other organ involvement can also occur because these small fine particulate matter go beyond the lung and enter the human circulation.
So the big cuts, the first thing that comes to mind is transport, because Delhi is the capital of private vehicle ownership, despite having a fantastic metro and a bus system that is probably the best in the country in some way, right, in terms of number of buses. We still find lots of single occupancy vehicles going through and the roads that enable it. Ultimately, unless we're able to sort of price private transport in a way that the people who are using it feel that this is expensive for me to use because it's imposing a cost on others and I'm having to pay for that cost eventually, we're not going to see significant improvement because road transport, the emissions are unknown at this point because real world driving emissions are only being understood in a better way in India in recent days.
We are taking really a lot of steps. GRAP, CAQM, and the local governments, they are all taking very good, very good. But then it is all confined in a Delhi city. The point is that we should work now in a A-shade mapping perspective. Delhi is equally affected by its surrounding regions, where we should extend our mitigation strategy, not concentrating only towards the city level, but in a A-shade level, which is about 150 to 200 meter surrounding Delhi, and that is where all these measures which are now taken in Delhi city need to be taken in a A-shade region. Then only a significant change will come up.
President Xi Jinping is meeting President Joe Biden on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Summit in San Francisco. US-China relations are at their worst state in 40 years, and the leaders will speak about reducing military tensions. But there's another very significant item on the agenda: fentanyl. Americans are addicted to the synthetic opioid that's 50 times more potent than heroin. 1,500 Americans die every week from overdosing on such synthetic opioids. The raw material, which is called the precursor chemical for fentanyl, comes from China. Now, China has promised to crack down on companies exporting fentanyl and its precursor chemicals. My colleague Sugam Singhal spoke with a leading anti-narcotics crusader, Dr. Rajesh Kumar, to understand this problem. Let's listen in.
US government has been suffering for quite some time. Not the government, it is the US population has been suffering for quite some time. And the problem is, they know the drugs, this fentanyl, which is a synthetic drug which comes mostly from China, and they were not able to control it. Of course, there were so many delegations from US to China requested them to ensure that, because it is not officially supplied by government of China, but it is somehow coming from China. So they have been after China for almost like 10 years. And I think that, this new arrangement at the highest possible level, that might reduce a little bit, but it is not going to serve much purpose. And unless and until they reduce the demand, the supplier will find some other way, because now you are talking about the fentanyl. There are 3 more drugs have come up. And these 3 drugs are not it could be produced even in US. They are trying to control the precursors. The precursors are the chemicals which helps the drug to get synthesized or they can manufacture it. They can have so many agreements, so many commitments, but those commitments must also percolate down at the grassroots level. And what is the grassroots level? Grassroots level is reduce the demand, bring maximum people into the treatment. Unfortunately, the whole treatment scenario in US is again pathetic. The reason is all treatments are linked with insurance. Earlier, insurance company used to give for 3 months treatment. Now they are giving 1 week, 10 days, 16 days, depending on what type of the insurance you have taken. So these are the messages they have to first clear at home. Then only international treaty, international the conventions or international agreement will have some impact on American population.
The age of sovereigns is over. Power now flows from the ballot box. But there's one royal family that effortlessly made this transition from imperial rule to electoral politics. In fact, it's because of this transition that Gwalior's House of Scindia has managed to stay in power without a break since the 18th century. We'll leave you with this glimpse of the story on the House of Scindia. Thanks for watching.
Jyotiraditya Scindia is also facing a litmus test.
There have been corruption charges against all the chief ministers or towering leaders who were rich, but this is not the case with Scindia. So the point is that in modern times, when the society is looking up to good leaders, so Jyotiraditya Scindia could be one of them.
As far as Jyotiraditya Scindia is concerned, even if the BJP loses, Jyotiraditya Scindia will be around for at least another 2 decades. He is young and he has the ability to come back.
Jyotiraditya Scindia comes from an influential political dynasty in Madhya Pradesh. He quit the Congress and joined the BJP in 2020 to realize his ambition of leading his home state. He has got that opportunity 3 years later. The assembly election is a make or break moment for India's most discussed royal family member.
The Scindias are the longest beneficiaries of being in power. 1731, Ranoji Maharaj becomes a kind of political entity in the eyes of Peshwa, and since then they have been a ruling so to say ruling class in the monarchy. So there has not been a day when a Scindia has not been in the Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha or in the State Assembly of either Madhya Pradesh or Rajasthan. So can you imagine, there is no parallel in the world that from 1731 till 2023, the Scindias have been in power constantly in the monarchical form and in democratic form.